A kid from Nigeria just became the fourth fastest 400 meters runner in human history. Michael Johnson has held the world record for 27 years. Nobody has come close until now. And when Johnson saw that number, he said something that should terrify every runner alive. But here is what nobody is telling you about this kid. Every man who has ever threatened that record started running as a little child. We are talking 6-7 years old before primary school. Before they lost their first tooth, their parents were driving them to training sessions before they could tie their own shoelaces. By the time they reached the Olympics, they had spent literally their entire lives doing nothing but this. But this kid picked up the sport at 14, a full teenager, secondary school, when every other athlete who was going to be great at this was already great at this. Every coach in Nigeria who heard his age said the same thing quietly. Too late. The window closed years ago. You cannot build a world-class runner from scratch at 14. It has never been done. It is not supposed to be possible. 6 years later, he is 2/10 of a second from Johnson's world record. And the story of how he got there is going to make you question everything you think you know about what is possible in this sport. Kaduna, Nol Western Nigeria. Not a city you associate with world-class athletics. Not a place with Olympic training facilities or a pipeline that produces quarter-mile legends. Just a busy northern Nigerian city where life is hard and resources are thin. And the idea of making it to the Olympics is something that happens to other people in other places. Samuel Ogazi was born there on May 14, 2006. He was not a runner. He was just a kid. And in 2019, when he was 14 years old, he showed up at the Kaduna School Athletics Championships. Not because he had trained for it, not because a talent scout had found him, just because it was happening and he was there. A local coach named Sonny Mohammed was watching. Mohammed has spent his career at the grassroots level. He is not a famous name. He does not coach at a university or appear in international athletics media. He just works in Kaduna finding kids and building them into something. And when he watched Samuel Ogazi run that day, he saw something that made him stop. He pulled the kid aside. He told him he had something. That one conversation is the whole story. Everything that comes after runs through that moment on a track in Kaduna in 2019 when a coach nobody had heard of looked at a 14-year-old who had never competed before and decided he was worth believing in. 1 year later, Ogazi was winning national youth titles. Let that sink in. 1 year from his first ever competitive race to winning at national level in Nigeria. That is not normal development. That is something else entirely. But here is the thing about being the fastest teenager in Nigeria. It does not automatically mean the world is paying attention. It does not mean the resources are there. It does not mean the pathway is clear. It just means you have 1 year of experience and a lot of potential in a country where potential alone does not get you very far. 2023 Samuel Ogazi gets a scholarship to the University of Alabama. This is the moment everything should click. Alabama is one of the most respected 400 meters programs in American college athletics. The SEC, the conference Alabama competes in, is the best athletics conference in the country. The facilities, the coaching, the competition every weekend is at a completely different level to anything Ogazi had experienced in Kaduna or anywhere in Nigeria. He arrives in Alabama in January 2024 for his first ever indoor season. His first indoor race in the 400 meter, he runs 46:30. For context, that is a decent time for a first attempt, but 46:30 does not get you into the NCAA indoor championships individually. The men running the best 400 meter times in college are at 45 seconds or under. The men at the Olympics are running 43 and 44. He cannot even qualify for indoor nationals. Think about what that moment feels like. You left Nigeria on a scholarship. The whole of Kaduna is following your career. You are supposed to be something special and you cannot make the individual cut for the college national championships. The athletics world in America does not know his name yet. He is a teenager from Nigeria who has been running seriously for 4 years trying to survive in the best college athletic conference on the planet. The gap feels enormous. But then the outdoor season starts and Ogazi begins to show the world what Mohammed actually saw on that track in 2019. Blaine Way, Alabama's 400 meters coach. The man who saw Ogazi competing in Nigeria and decided he was worth a scholarship. That decision is not made lightly at a program like Alabama. They are not in the business of gambling on teenagers from West Africa who have 4 years of experience. They make calculated decisions based on what they genuinely believe an athlete can become. When WY offered Ogazi that scholarship, He was making a statement. He was saying, "This kid is not just fast for Nigeria. This kid is going to be fast for the world." And what WY built into Ogazi over the next 2 years was not just speed. It was racecraft, tactical intelligence, the ability to run a 400-meter at the highest level where the difference between winning and losing is not just how fast you can go, but how well you understand every second of the race. The coach from Kaduna found the raw material. The Alabama system turned it into something the world was about to find out about in Paris. August 7, 2024. Stade de France, Paris Olympics, men's 400 meters final. Samuel Ogazi is 18 years old, the youngest man in the field. Nigeria's first 400-meter Olympic finalist in 36 years. The last Nigerian to make this final was the legendary Innocent Egunik at the 1988 Seoul Olympics. 36 years. An entire generation of Nigerian athletics. And this kid from Kaduna who started running at 14 has just walked into the biggest 400-meter race on the planet. What happened next has been called one of the greatest 400-meter races in Olympic history. Quincy Hall came from nowhere in the final straight to win gold in 43. 40. Matthew Hudson Smith of Great Britain ran a European record of 43. 44. Misala Samakonga of Zambia took bronze in 43. 74. Jerome Richards, Karani James, Christopher Bailey, every man in that race was an established world-class athlete with years of international experience. Ogazi ran 44. 73. He finished 7th. And before you think 7th is disappointing, let me give you some context. He is 18 years old. He has been running seriously for 4 years. He is standing in a race where the top 3 men all ran under 43. 75. The gap between him and the podium is real. But it is not the gap between a good athlete and a great one. It is the gap between a teenager at the start of his career and men in the prime of theirs. 7th in that race is not a ceiling. 7th in that race is an arrival. Nigeria knows it. The athletics world knows it. And Ogazi goes home with something more valuable than a medal. He goes home knowing exactly what he has to do. But here is the thing the data tells you. Finishing 7th at 18 is remarkable, but 7th is not the world record. 7th is not even the Nigerian national record. Innocent Egunik set that record in 1987, running 44. 17. It had stood for 37 years. And Ogazi, as good as he is still 2/10 away from even matching the man Nigeria has been waiting to replace since 1988. The collegiate record at Alabama is nowhere near what the best men in the world run. Michael Norman set the NCAA record of 43. 61 in 2018. That is 8 years ago. Nobody in college athletics has touched it since. And Michael Johnson's world record of 43. 18 set in Seville in 1999 is a number that looks like it belongs to a different sport entirely. 27 years that record has stood. The best runners in the world have looked at 43. 18 and accepted it as something they are not going to break. Wade Vayner ran 43. 03 at the 2016 Rio Olympics and came the closest. Even he could not do it twice. So when people ask whether Ogazi can actually close that gap, the honest answer is nobody knows. Speed is one thing. Sustaining improvement year after year, staying healthy, developing the tactical maturity to race at the very highest level consistently, that is something else entirely. He has to prove this was not Paris. He has to prove he is still getting better. Drop it in the comments right now. After watching Ogazi finish 7th in that Paris final at 18 years old, did you honestly believe that same kid would 2 years later be closing in on a world record that has stood for 27 years? I want to know who actually saw this coming. 2025 Ogazi comes back. NCAA outdoor title, SEC title. He is winning consistently. The times are getting faster. The racecraft is getting sharper. He is not just talented anymore. He is dangerous. Then May 2026, he runs 44. 02 in Athens. Innocent Egunik's Nigerian national record of 44. 17 set in 1987. A record that had stood for 38 years is gone. Then he runs 43. 82. Then 43. 38. He does not just break the record once. He shatters it 3 times in the same month. Nigeria goes quiet for a second, then erupts. The man who nobody outside Kaduna had heard of 4 years earlier just became the fastest Nigerian to ever run the 400 m. The record that defined an entire generation of Nigerian athletics fell to a 19-year-old who started running at a school meet. But he is not done. June 12, 2026, Hayward Field, Eugene, Oregon, NCAA Championships. Samuel Ogazi lines up in the 400 meters final. He runs 43.38 seconds. That broke Michael Norman's collegiate record of 43.61 that had stood since 2018. Gone. And it made Ogazi the fourth fastest man in the history of the 400 meters. Not the fourth fastest Nigerian, not the fourth fastest African, the fourth fastest human being who has ever run this event anywhere on the planet at any point in history. Now think about what Michael Johnson would say watching that time come up, because Johnson has spent 27 years at the top of this event. 43.18. The world record he set in Seville in 1999 has outlasted everything. Every generation of runners since has come up against it and fallen short. And now a 20-year-old kid from Kaduna who had never run a competitive race before age 14 is standing 0.20 seconds away from it. Johnson knows what 0.20 seconds feels like at this level. He knows what it means when a 20-year-old is already that close. He has said publicly that the world record will be broken. He has said that talent exists somewhere in the world to do it. And if he is watching what is happening in Eugene right now, he knows exactly what he is looking at. 43.38, fourth fastest in history, 0.20 from the world record at 20 years old. Say it one more time. 43.38. After the record fell, something happened that most of the athletics media completely missed. Back in Kaduna, Dynamic Athletics, the club where Sonny Muhammad coaches, released a statement. They said this: Coach Sonny Muhammad, you built a champion from the ground up. Your dedication at the grassroots level gave Samuel Ogazi the discipline, belief, and foundation to make history as the first Nigerian to run sub 44 seconds. Nigeria sees your work and honors you for shaping a record breaker and raising our flag high. Not Ogazi Muhammad, the coach nobody outside Kaduna had ever heard of. The man who was watching a school athletics championship in 2019 with no cameras and no fanfare and pulled a 14-year-old aside and told him he had something. That is where 43.38 actually starts. Not at Alabama, not at the Paris Olympics, not at Hayward Field in Eugene. It starts on a dusty track in Kaduna in 2019 with a coach doing his job in a place where nobody is watching. And now Nigeria's fastest man in history is 0.20 seconds from a world record that has stood for 27 years. He is 20 years old. LA 2028 is 2 years away. Ogazi will be 22. The prime years for a 400-meter runner. Home Olympics for the Americans who beat him in Paris. The full field, everything on the line. So, here is what I want you to tell me in the comments. Los Angeles 2028. Samuel Ogazi is 22 years old. Does he break Michael Johnson's 43.18 world record that has stood since 1999 and become the greatest 400-meter runner who ever lived? Or does the record hold for another generation? Drop it below. Every comment gets